Hello.
Hi, how's it going, man?
I'm all right, mate. A bit warm. Too
Yeah,
warm. Not
very
good
warm.
warm.
Yeah.
So, what genre are the Fierce and the Dead?
Let's go bang straight in.
Bang, straight in.
It's been interesting, actually, hasn't it? Because over the last year or so, especially with the Euphoric, when that came out, we started getting a bit more involved with algorithms,
Oh,
things like Spotify and things like that, where they kind of decide what you are. You know,
yeah.
and it's been quite interesting to see what not just what the people out there think we are or how they classify us, but also what algorithms think we are as well. So it's
So, what did the Spotify algorithm say we were, Kevin?
I just looked at it because it was on a thread you put, wasn't it? I think the algorithm initially said we were neo-progressive,
Yeah.
psychedelic, uh,
Indie, British
rock,
post rock.
British post-rock, yeah, as opposed to American post-rock, because you
Because
know.
I don't particularly. What do you think? Okay, so let's start post rock. What do you think to post rock?
Um, you know what? I'll start with a caveat because we've had this discussion before on several things. So for those who've heard this before, apologies. But I always think you're getting warm there.
I'm
I
very warm.
always think that whenever a genre kind of is defined, the bands that define that genre are always the ones that then transcend it, and then you're left with often very good bands, but bands that sort of follow in the wake of it. So, for example, post rock. I mean, one of the kind of like the obvious kind of things is Mogwai.
Mogwai, Tortoise. I mean, they're all bands we like, aren't they? We like Mogwai, we like Tortoise.
Yeah, but, I know
But
that,
I've no interest in copying Mogwai or Tortoise.
not at all, not at all. I think as well, a band like Mogwai and Tortoise, they kind of veer off on their own course. They do their own thing. They're not sitting there saying, we've planted a flag with post rock written on it. So
Well, yeah,
yes, I do like a lot of bands that are classified as post rock, and
okay. So we'll take a little bit of post rock, but it's not really. That's not one of our core influences, is it? Okay, next one, neo prog.
absolutely not.
Absolutely not, no. I think there's basically it's one of those things. The algorithm says you're something because you're written about by the same people who write about, So a lot of the websites that write about us, and thank you so much to them for doing it. But we don't necessarily have anything in common with those sort of bands. And I think a lot of the bands that get classified as neo-prog also feel they don't have anything to do with neo-prog either. So, if you talk to like I was talking to John Mitchell from Frost, and he said like, as far as he's concerned, his influences are like, he likes it bites, but he also likes Jellyfish and Cardiacs, and
Yeah,
it's not really there's it's not really it's a weird one, neo prog, and I don't think it's a genre that's particularly well liked by musicians. Okay, so the next one is indie psychedelic rock.
I don't even know what that is.
No, well, I don't either, but I suppose that's because we tour with Hawkwind and we've played a lot of the psychedelic festivals, but we don't really sound like a psychedelic band because
Well,
a bit of space rock in there, isn't there?
well, I'd say as well, psychedelic. I mean, it's a ridiculous kind of genre, thing to call a genre anyway, because whatever even does that mean? But I think as well, you've got a lot of, there's a split even within that, because by psychedelic rock, do you mean Tame Impala, or do you mean Kevin Ayers?
Yeah, it's a big genre, isn't it? I mean, I think there's bits of psych. I mean, a bit of Osrix and a bit of Hawkwind. We like that sort of thing. We grew up on that. There's quite a bit of Monster Magnet. So the next one would be Stoner Rock.
A lot of the bands we were into when we were kids were sort of proto stoner rock, weren't they?
Yeah.
Uh,
Crunchy, grunge.
Again, it was an age we grew up in.
Soundgarden.
An awful classification, but yeah, bands like Soundgarden.
So Soundgarden, yes. Nickelback, no.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, you can't have grown up. You can't have grown up at the time of Nirvana and not, ingested that somehow.
I'm going through this list then. So we've done grunge. I mean, I think definitely a bit of grunge in there. I think
It's all things.
grunge in sort of like Kyuss and Queens of the Stone Age we like, don't we? So
Yeah.
and we like in like modern more. I mean, we like Slowmatics and bands like that. Don't we? They're great. So I mean, who are considered stoner rock, but they're not. I think they're a great band. Contemporary prog. No, not really.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
Well, I think. I mean, okay. Well, progressive metal is the next one, I don't think we're because prog metal. I always, it's always these people playing these riffs that are really tight, really. And I sort of think, well, it's impressive, but the sort of progressive metal I like is Voivod, and
Can we mention the thing that was really interesting that we discovered? Can we say about the 7-string, your adventures with 7 strings? So we've been getting into down tunings, and for the writing of the next album, you went out and got yourself a 7-string, didn't you?
Yeah.
What we discovered is that it sounds really low, but it's 2 in tune.
Yeah, and the strings don't bounce, do they? It's weird. Because we've been tuned to like normal tune is B A D G. Sorry, B A D G B E. So, but this tuning with the 7 is still tuned, no tuned any lower. But but it's that sort of tight sort of business going on, and it doesn't really work for us.
You listen to Rusty Cage by Soundgarden. The guitars are tuned to a low B, and they're really wobbly because of it, and it just adds something to it. It adds this kind of edge to it that I kind of miss with a lot of modern progressive metal. It's very
and it's a weird one because I kind of, as someone who likes to, I'm always interested in new sounds.
Yeah.
But there's one of the things. It's like a lot of the bands use very similar amp models, and because I've got into it and seen how it all works.
Yeah.
And there's certain ways to make those records. And once you work out, it's like a lot of stuff. It's like when you work out how to do it. It's like Boards of Canada. When you work out how to make those sounds, I can knock this out all day. But it won't be as good as Haken. It won't be as good as Boards of Canada. But you know roughly how to get into the ballpark. And then the 5% is the great bands like your Hakens and your, those sort of people are really, really good at it. Yeah. And that's a different league. But okay, what we got next? Post-prog hardcore melodic rock.
What? Well,
post-prog, I can sort of see, because we do like King Crimson and Mahavishnu Orchestra, but that's a small part of, that's one of the elements, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, hardcore, we're quite melodic because I like Bob Mould and Jellyfish and stuff like that. Hardcore, we grew up on the Dead Kennedys and Black Flag, and we love Out the Drive-In and Fugazi and bands like that. So, bit of that in there. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'd go with that, definitely, yeah.
Okay, someone said progressive instrumental metal. Not well, because I think if you say progressive instrumental metal, someone who's into progressive instrumental is going to listen to us. Instrumental metal is going to listen to us and be sorely disappointed.
We've always suffered, haven't we, from being too heavy for some people and not being heavy enough for others.
What's the next one here? Proggish, synthish, psychish, metalish, which is probably a bit of that all in there. Rushden Beat, I'll take Rushden Beat. Yeah, we're Rushden Beat. I think, is that all of them? Okay, so post rock, experimental rock. Now, what is experimental rock? I mean, it's not, because when people say they're playing experimental rock, basically they sound like they're like a rip-off of the Melvins or Sonic Youth. So it's not experimental to do Glenn Branca 40 years on, is it? So, experimental, mate.
Yeah. We went to that gig on a boat, and it was a band doing sort of avant-garde kind of stuff, and they sounded exactly like the guitar sounded exactly like Fred Frith.
We saw that, didn't we? I was there. Yeah.
It was just like, well, how is this avant-garde? You're just doing what Fred Frith did.
Yeah, there's a trad avant-garde, isn't there?
Traditional avant-garde, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay, so the next one is math rock. Don't feel any affinity to math rock, because a lot of that's basically they play the end of the King Crimson song over and over again. A lot of those, but there's some brilliant math rock bands. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of, once again, it's another genre that's hugely formulaic, and there's A lot of it's like a lot of stuff is once you work out all the boxes are, you know how to tick the boxes.
Yeah.
It becomes quite, you know. So the next one we got is art rock. Well, what's art rock? Is art rock Flaming Lips?
Well, I suppose art rock used to mean sort of Talking Heads, and
It's David Bowie.
art rock can mean sort of anything, really, can't it? So you know.
What we got next?
Take that one.
What's that? I'll take. Yeah, I mean, our friend Rick has got his. I like this one actually. Robert Fripp and Hank Marvin in a dark alleyway being mugged by Hawkwind. I think that's quite good because
Yeah.
I like the Shadows because they're a pop band, and I always consider us a pop band because we're trying to write. We're trying to experiment with different sounds all the time, but essentially we're trying to write tunes, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's the 100% the main thing.
Post punk, not really. I mean, there's a little bit of post punk in there. We like Public Image Limited and things like that, don't we? But it's not really a. You know, I mean, I think post punk is the sort of, for me, post punk that I'm interested in is like the later Dead Kennedy stuff where they went a bit weird.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And the later Black Flag as well was quite a bit like that. Wasn't it? What else we got? Okay, so that's that one done. Have we got any closer to what genre the Fierce and the Dead are?
No, not at all.
For the next
I'd
one?
say that we grew up at a time. We grew up at a time makes me sound really old, but yeah, because I am. When you had bands like Faith No More around, and I know people sort of associate Faith No More with whatever they want really, but they were a band who would have like a full-on, like a really good death metal kind of death metal-ish track, and then like a calypso.
Yeah, well, especially on Angel Dust. And, I mean, the only album they had where all the songs sounded similar was The Real Thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and even that you've got
Still got Surprise You're Dead and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, all that kind of stuff. But it was that stuff was great. And around that time, there was, I don't know, there seemed to be. We talked about Soundgarden, even Soundgarden. Within an album, there's quite a big spectrum of a variety of styles and things going on in there. So I always like to think of us like that we just write things that we like.
Someone said jam band, but I mean, actually, there's not a lot of jamming in what we do. Like most of it's very tightly written. Actually, I mean, the early stuff we did was kind of jamming psychedelic riffs and stuff, and sort of Pink Floyd, and it's got a bit of Goblin and things, that sort of thing in there. But so have we got there? What is it? What genre are we?
We are. You know what? Our friends back up in Northamptonshire, we have some very good friends, Nick, Steve, and Alex, who formed a band called Good Cop, Bad Cop. And they used to call themselves Whatever Call. Always like that. Whatever Call.
Right. Are we done? So we don't know, do we?
We don't know. No.
Go in the comments, put down what genre we are. Show you my new guitar. Look, I've got a 12 string.
Nice.
All right, done. Bye.
Bye.